All right, welcome to another edition of SJHL Insider. I am Clark Munroe for IKS Media, co-director of media for the SJHL. Very exciting week so far. We have a lot to get into this week on the show with myself and my co-host Jamie Neugebauer. Before we get to Jamie, though, just a quick kind of a look at what we're going to be talking about today. There's been some wild overtime games in Humboldt with the Broncos and the Melfort Mustangs. So we're going to talk about those games. Plus, there was a sweep recently. The Flin Flon Bombers took games 3 and 4 from the Battleford's North Stars this week to sweep that series. And later in the show, we're going to actually be joined by Flin Flon Bombers head coach and general manager and Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association Coach of the Year in the SJHL, Mike Reagan. He's going to be joining us later in the show. Plus, Nugsy and I are going to look ahead to a potential series-ending Game 5 in Melfort on Saturday night. But first, we've got to thank our sponsors. This, of course, broadcast and all of our broadcasts are brought to you by UPL Canada. Love those guys. They're a huge part of what we're doing here, all playoffs long and all season long. So thank you, UPL Canada. Borgo, Canterra Seeds, Capital Automall, Chevrolet, Great Western, Nutrien, RBC, Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association, as I mentioned a second ago, Sask Lotteries, Tourism Saskatchewan, Sask Energy, SGU, and SGI. Thanks to all the sponsors. They are fantastic. And you know who else is fantastic? This guy over here, Jamie Neugebauer. Jamie, welcome back to the show again, of course. There's been some chaos this week. You and I were at one of those chaotic games together. Got home at about 4 a.m. on, what was that? I don't even know. I don't even know what day it is.
Wednesday morning.
I'm still recuperating.
In my post for we're moving on to the next game today. It's happening later today. It's happening later today.
That's how late that game was. But it's been a great week of hockey, Jamie. I guess, first of all, overall thoughts on the last few days across the league.
Well, I mean, I saw a post by a guy, and he said, you know, with this Humboldt-Melfort series, he said, quote, finally a series worth watching. Now, I don't agree with the sentiment that the other series haven't been worth watching.
No.
Because they have all been very good and very competitive, especially at different times, even if there have been sweeps and 5-game series. But, man, Melfort and Humboldt are just killing each other.
Yeah.
And Mike Reagan, I'm sure the head coach and GM of the Flin Flon Bombers is happy to see it. But just generally speaking, it's been exactly what you hoped for. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun, and there's been a lot happening in these games. So let's get into it, and I guess that's going to be our first topic, actually, of the hat trick. That is the hat trick. Love that animation. It gets me every time, and I'm hoping the viewers and listeners have woken up early on in the show here. Topic number 1 for the hat trick, of course, is going to be a look back at some of the wild overtime games in Humboldt, but we're going to start actually with the Flin Flon Bombers moving on. Let's start on Monday, actually. Let's look at the recap graphic from Monday. A 5-2 win in Battleford's to take a 3-0 series lead on Monday night. A big third period there. A two-goal night for Kean Bell, a 40-save performance by North Stars goalie Logan Cunningham, but it wasn't enough as a 3-goal third-period explosion from Carter Anderson, Noah Houle, and Justin Lees powered the Bombers to the win in Game 3. We look at Tuesday night, and you do see that, you know what? As we look at this, it's backwards. Battleford's didn't win that game 5-1. It was the other way around. Flin Flon won that game 5-1. So if you're looking at this, and you're like, hey, that's not right, you are correct. If you're listening and you have no idea what I'm talking about, let's just talk about a 5-1 Flin Flon win. A goal just 33 seconds in by Cohen Samt, and then a late first period Justin Lee's marker would prove enough for the Bombers as they added 3 more after that for a 5-1 win to sweep the series. Harmon Laser-Hume 35 saves on the night, and then of course the 3 overtime thriller. I'm going to call it a marathon. And we'll get to that in a sec. But a marathon, a 3-2 win in triple overtime for Humboldt. Still recovering from that one. And we'll get to that in a second. And then if you can look at Tuesday nights really quick, Jordan, just the third one there. Sorry, Wednesday nights really quick. It's a overtime win for the Melfort Mustangs on a goal by Rhett Hamilton. And Melfort now has a 3-1 series lead. So, Nugsy, let's start with that Flin Flon series sweep against the Battleford's North Stars. Winning 2 games this week, and like I said, it was a tight game in Game 3, and then a third period explosion kind of took that one, and then kind of Game 4, it just seemed like Flin Flon was ready to just kind of put their pedal to the metal and finish it. When you look at this series, I'm going to go ahead and say Battleford's was not at all a bad team.
No.
I think, in my opinion, It's just the fact that Flin Flon has just found their groove, and Battleford's happened to be in the way at the wrong time of the year.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. Battleford's wasn't bad. And there were times and stretches where if the Stars got the bounce, a couple bounces, the games would be different. So there's the way of looking at it like that, where the Stars were good, the Stars were in it. I did text Braden Klamosko after Game 4. Didn't know when he'd get back to me because the series was over and whatever. He responded relatively quickly though, and I just said to him, after the season that they had, the guys that they lost, the 200-something goals that they lost, to bounce back and to be as good and relevant as they were right away was real impressive.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of the tone of my message to Braden was. But that being said, looking at this series, you can look at it as, yes, Battleford's was good and kind of in it, and especially if you just watched and didn't think about statistical elements. Battleford's was in it for most of it. But statistically speaking, Flin Flon hit their groove, and you're right. It was more about Flin Flon being that good. I'll take you through a few stats. 20-8 on goals, 53% to 47% on faceoffs for Flin Flon. So when you're winning 53% of your faceoffs in a playoff series, you're doing pretty good.
Helps, yeah.
Keith Gruner at 69% in the series.
Nice.
That is good. If he's brought in from Fort McMurray, the trade deadline for anything, and he's in the 60s of the face-off percentage, then he's good. Alexi Silvestri obviously does everything for this Flin Flon team, 57%, and Kai Olofsson, 54%. Really good numbers for the face-offs there. For Flin Flon, averaging 15 blocked shots per game. That's good. Almost 200 shots over the series to 150, so 50 more shots. 30% power play, 5 for 14 in the series. That's 36%, 30% over the whole playoffs. 6 goals in the series for Justin Lees. It's 6 multi-goal games, but 10 different guys had goals in the series. 6 guys had multi-goal series, and the big thing for me I always look at is where are good scoring chances coming. People talk about, this team had this many shots, that team had that many shots. I look at good scoring chances, and Flin Flon had 20 more good scoring chances over the 4 games than Battleford's, and Anthony Bax led the way with 7 blocked shots as well. But Flin Flon just blocks shots. You talk about how talented they are, but they're gritty and they are here to win, and they are not here just because they have talent. They are here because they bought into what Mike Reagan is preaching. And I was so impressed with the attitude, and I'm sure you saw it the same way.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the biggest thing I just want to take away from this. When we look at Battleford's, that was a team that I think a lot of us, when we were talking at the very beginning of the season, we were kind of just not sure where they would be. Kean Bell comes back, and all of a sudden they were I'm not going to say they were as good as they were last year, because last year was epic proportions good. As we talk about, them and Flin Flon this year are very similar in terms of how good they were. But Battleford's really solidified themselves throughout the season. They proved that they had no problem getting close to where they were last year. They would prove that they were a top 4 team in this league. There's a lot of good performers on this team. You look at just past Kean Bell, Ben Portner had such an amazing season. Alex Isaac really proved himself in this league. Jordan Gold really showed that he was a great leader throughout Tanner Gold. It's been a long few days. Okay,
we're still recovering from a 22-hour day.
I was thinking of Jordan Grill and Tanner Gold at the same time. But anyways, Bradley Blake, such a battler, and such a great season for them. And at the end of the day, there's going to be some players coming back next year for this team that will take another step next year. So huge kudos to Battleford's. And again, to me, it wasn't that they played poorly at all. I think Flin Flon was just they're a juggernaut that turned it on at the right time. And this, anything else you want to add to that before we move on to Melfort Humboldt here?
Yeah, it was just kind of the reverse almost heading into the series of the final last year between these two teams. I think Battleford's was such a heavy favorite, going to the final last year. And we were all thinking about ways, racking our brains, how Battleford's or Flin Flon could compete with them in the final last year. And it didn't work out, not again because Flin Flon wasn't committed or Mike Reagan wasn't a good enough coach or whatever, just because Battleford was so cohesive and such a buzzsaw. Pretty much every bounce went Flin Flon's way as well in this series too. The Whitney Forum was just absolutely bananas. So Yeah, there's not much more to say. I mean, we talked about in the preview when we previewed it that Kean Bell needed more than just Kean Bell to really keep Battlefords committed in this series. And yes, Ben Portner was really good, especially with the power play. I think 5-on-5 Battlefords had a real hard time generating offensive chances. Hunter Bergerson had a couple goals, but after that, it's a lot of one goal.
Yeah.
They needed a bit more from some guys. But as you said, last thing I'll say, Battlefords has a lot of young bucks that can come back and form a terrific core.
Yeah.
And also, and who are we talking to? We're talking to Kean Bell, I think. I think we were talking to Kean Bell, and just I'm sure Braden Klamosko and their Wiley Riendo and their staff are just the phone's ringing off the hook to play for the Battlefords North Stars. So they're going to find some studs for next year too. So the future is super bright for the Stars.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
Stars, nice.
Right.
Bright, stars, good one. Let's look at the Humboldt Melfort series. Again, a triple overtime game on Tuesday night that we were in attendance for. And I'm not saying anything. The game was amazing.
Yeah.
And, we got into overtime, and I was sitting beside a gentleman there in Humboldt, and we were having a great chat. He thought we were all scouts because he wasn't sure who we were. And he was like, you guys are all looking fancy. Are you guys scouts? And I'm like, well, in a roundabout
you
way,
look
I
fancy,
guess, kinda.
Clark.
Thank you. Thank you. But anyways, we were having a good chat, and he was like, so where are you guys from? And I'm like, well, we're from Regina, so we have to head back after this. He's like, well, you guys are going to get home pretty late then. And I'm like, yeah. That was in the first overtime. And then we got to the second overtime, and he just looked at me again and started laughing. Then the third overtime, he looked at me again and started laughing. I'm like, you know what? We're in it now. It doesn't really matter what time we get home at this point. But it was a great game. Truly was. There was a crazy bounce off the boards for Melfort, getting them one of their goals. There was a lot of, and this is one of my favorite parts about playoff hockey, a lot of animosity in the crowd around some calls, some non-calls by the referees. Of course, which always just adds to the spiciness in the rink at any given time. There was a lot of Melfort fans in the one corner, which they were being loud. They were being supportive of their team. The Humboldt crowd was fantastic all night long. It was a really, really fun game to be at. Amazing performances by Benjamin Motu, James Venn in the nets for both teams. Quite literally all night, they were standing on their heads throughout the evening. Nugsy, there's a pretty special stat about this game, actually. You want to get into the special stat about this 3 overtime game?
Yeah, so 3 overtime games are pretty rare anyways.
Rare.
But I put together, since 2010, there have been 6. Oh, that's not the right one.
The longest game.
The longest game one. There have been 6. There it is. Or 7. 6. There you go.
Yep.
There have been 6 games that have gone triple overtime since 2010. I was told there was a quadruple overtime game maybe in the 80s or something. So it's pretty rare. But this is right in the mix. And there you see the last 3 are in Humboldt, which is interesting. But yeah, it was going on and on and on. And that one of those there was in the finals is pretty interesting too. Must have been nuts. But yeah, there you go. So it seemed like
four of the games, including the longest game, include the Humboldt Broncos.
Yeah, there you go. It was going a long time, and to be fair, I think in the first intermission, the first intermission between overtime periods, or maybe after the third period, Rory McGoran, the voice of the Broncos, did come by and he said, "I think this game might need more than one overtime."
Yeah, he did.
I'll give him kudos for that. And you know what? Like it was what was a 4-3 game, I believe, or a 3-2 game.
3-2 game. Yeah.
And that sounds like, oh, what a defensive battle. There were lots of scoring chances.
Yeah.
All night, 22-18 good scoring chances for Humboldt in that game. And there were breakaways, and James Venn was stopping them, and James Venn was stopping him, and Ben Motu, who's just been brilliant the whole series. Yeah, really, he's allowed 13 goals on 189 shots. Ben Motu, that's a .936 save percentage for those counting at home. James Venn has given up 11 on 153. So it was kind of billed this series as maybe the 2 best goalies in the league. It's possible. And they've certainly proved that. I know you love your goalies, Clark, but they've just been absolutely terrific, and there's been very, very little to choose between these two. Yeah, absolutely. And Travis Bryson had a huge game. Yep. I mean, he almost got the hat trick. I think Cage Newens might have stole his goal at the end there. Yeah, they kind of flicked at it. They literally both, I think, pushed the puck at the same time, but Cage Newens' stick was like in front of Travis Bryson's stick, and they both passed it or shot it in at the same time. But we talked about how close that game was.
And like almost every goal was like a quote unquote garbage goal. Like there was a nice shot. Travis Bryson had a really nice shot to score one of them. But outside of that, and including the overtime winner, it was all kind of just like choppy goals in the front of the net, just a battle in front of the net. So it was an awesome game to watch. Game 4, Melfort won that one in overtime on a shot by Rhett Hamilton. We're not early in the first, but 5 or 6 minutes into the first overtime. So a lot earlier bedtime for a lot of folks in Humboldt after that one. But they took a 3-1 series lead. A couple of APs got their first ever playoff goals, at least. Owen Nelson and Tristan Zayola got their first playoff goals, I should say. So pretty exciting for those kids. And great performances by Tristan Ziola in both games. We saw him. He got a decent amount of ice time. So, Nugsy, this series has, in me, it's been airtight. To me, at least, it's been airtight. But Melfort has edged Humboldt so far, 3-1. What has been the key for them to get this series lead? And I guess on the other side of it, what will Humboldt need to do now to keep their hopes alive?
I mean, you know what? I think it's cliche probably, but it's just the truth. Like Melfort's just taken advantage of their chances when they've gotten them. They've been more clinical. Humboldt has had plenty of chances. I talked about the statistical underlay of this whole series already. Both teams have had good chances. There's a long list of stats that show that this series has been extremely tight in kind of every category. But when the Melfort Mustangs, in their big three especially, Hutchinson and Duguay and Sleva, even though Humboldt's actually done a decent job with those guys the last couple of games, the Mustangs take advantage. Game 4 was a pretty interesting anomaly too, Clark, in that there had been 5 straight games total with at least a goal from those big three, Sleva, Hutchinson, Duguay, for Melfort. And their last win without one of those big three, do you have any idea how long it's been since the last time they won
February or something?
Well, it was January the 19th.
Wow. Longer than I even thought.
19 wins the last time Melfort won a game without a goal either from Hutchinson, Sleva, or Duguay.
Yeah. And I mean, right now, just to add to that, right now with their injuries the way that they are and the way that their roster has had to be put together with Zach Summers being out, and we can go down the whole list of guys that aren't playing right now due to some form of something. Those guys have been crucial, and they've really been. When we talk about playoff MVPs, we'll talk about that later in the show, but. Those 3 guys are in the conversation, all 3 of them.
Yeah, no, there's no question. I mean, both teams are really banged up right now. And again, I think Mike Reagan, whether he's tuned in or not,
I think
he's thrilled about the fact that they're beating the absolute, out of each other, these two teams. I know, there's a long list on both teams that are either out or playing with some significant injuries, and that's what the playoffs are all about. You work through it. And the last thing that I do want to say is that both the overtime goals have had a measure of controversy to them, in that the Humboldt goal in the game 3 did come on the power play, and a call that maybe it was I don't know, like Aiden Hutchinson did get hit in the face with a stick, but it wasn't that hard and whatnot. So there's an argument that Melfort fans were really mad. I know that. And then on the game 4 goal, was there a pick play there? Ty Evans on Oakley McIlwain, a little interference. Again, I don't know. I'm kind of okay if the refs had let both of them go, to be honest, or called both of them, or whatever. It's really controversial. But I know both sets of fans are not happy right now, which means you're probably doing a good thing if you're the league. Rather.
Exactly. And here's the thing: is that
both of them are upset.
Here's the thing: we're all hockey fans here.
Yeah.
No opposing team is going to be happy if they get scored on something that they weren't happy with them in the first place. If the roles were reversed, like you said, it would have been the exact same, just on the other side of it. So, I always try to remember that when I look at controversial situations, so to speak. Is that if I were to look at this the other way, would I be complaining or would I be happy about it? And so, I get it, guys. I get it. But at the same time, this is playoff hockey. That's what you sign up for. And it just adds to the excitement levels. It adds to the intrigue. It adds to the mystery. That's why we love the sport.
Yeah. I also just want to say, I think it was really interesting. And actually, I got to credit Dan Torwalt, the color guy for the Humboldt Broncos that does the game with Rory, and he mentioned that he saw a big jump in the step of Owen Nelson and Tristan Zayola. Obviously everybody was exhausted after that game 3 going to the third overtime, and then they had to play the next day.
Less than 20 hours later.
So the fact that none of those big 3 guys, who of course play for Melfort a ton of minutes, weren't the ones that scored, didn't score a goal. It's interesting that it is those 2, young bucks and Cole Unger, who's a really good young D man, and I think will be an elite D man in the league next year for Melfort if he's back. But Owen Nelson, great year for the Prince Albert Mintos. Is he a Lethbridge Hurricanes player next year? Is he a Melfort Mustang? I'm sure Blevins would love to have him, but he scored a beauty. Ziola, I think, is signed, sealed, and delivered for Melfort for next year. Signed, yeah. And obviously, Rhett Hamilton, again, could be a really good player for them next year, too, Melfort. So, young bucks stepping up for Melfort there, and that's the bottom line.
The young bucks. So you know what? That's let's have a look at the bracket now, just really quickly here. We have a couple more things, and we're going to get to our guest here in just a few seconds. But as you can see, Flin Flon has moved on. They have defeated the Battlefords North Stars in 4 games, and that Melfort Humboldt series, 3-1 makes it sound one-sided, but boy, is it ever not one-sided. Game 5 will go Saturday night in Melfort at the Northern Lights Palace. Let's get into topic 2 now of the hat trick, because we're still in the hat trick here, folks. Topic 2, we're going to just look at some player stat leaders here as we kind of get to this point in the season. Again, we're almost through the second round. We're late in the second round. So let's look at the goalies here first. As you can see, Harmon Laser-Hume has been fantastic. Those are otherworldly numbers. Hasn't lost a game yet. .955 save percentage, 138 goals against. Unbelievable. You can see Benjamin Motu for Humboldt has been great. And that sample size is huge, by the way, because of those overtime games. Those numbers include a 3 overtime game. So he's basically played 12 games. If you look at it that way. He's a .932 save percentage, 239. You see James Venn right there, literally neck and neck. You can't get much closer than those two goalies right now. And you see all the way down there, Logan Cunningham. A fantastic showing for Logan Cunningham in this whole playoffs for what he was kind of thrust into as an 18-year-old goaltender, and great signs for the future for the Battlefords North Stars. If we look at the players now, the player stats, you can see that Aiden Hutchinson, boy, has he been good this playoff so far. Second in the league in goals so far, leading them in points, of course. Kian Bell had such a great playoff run as well, 15 points in 8 games. And you see Matthew Van Blericom, who's been so good for Humboldt as well. And you see that swath, I'll call it, of Flin Flon players kind of mixed in there to the top 10. Ryan Duguay, Chase Freetmore also for Melfort in there. Travis Bryson, who Rory McGoran called him out on Monday. More or less called him out. Call him out sounds pretty strong, but
we just said who
he
needs
mentioned
to step
his
up.
name, and boy, did he ever step up. In a game 3, he had a big game 3. He's been playing really well since then, so he's got a point per game as well. So there's the player stat leaders here as we head into the finale, I guess, of the second round. And into the finals as well. Very exciting stuff. And finally, just a quick mention again for our third topic here, the hat trick. The RBC Community Ambassador vote is still going on over at sjhl.ca. There are 4 finalists as well. And we saw that we put a post out today, and all the teams are rallying around their guys. So there's still time to get your votes in. That ends on Sunday, and you can still get your votes in. So head over to sjhl.ca, support your players, or just put a vote in as well if you're not, from Flin Flon, Larange, Estevan, and Melfort. You can still vote. Put your vote in for who you want to win. So,
please do.
Yeah.
And I should say, Jacob Gazette has taken a good lead.
Yes.
Orange boy. But, it's not insurmountable. It's not as big of a lead as Connor Miller, for example, for the highlight of the year. It's still catchable for any of those 3 guys. So get your votes in right now.
Yeah, every vote counts. We always say that. But you know what? Let's go to the video chat lines now. We're going to be joined by a guy who loves the fact that these Melfort Humboldt games are going to as many overtimes as they're going to, I'm sure. Coach Mike Reagan of the Flin Flon Bombers, Coach of the Year in the SJHL. Thank you for joining us today, Mike.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
So as I mentioned, you won the series on Tuesday night against the Battlefords North Stars. Have you finally gotten some decent night's sleep in the last couple of nights?
No, to be honest with you, I'm pretty sick right now. Rob Hart gave me his cold. He sits right behind me on the bus, and he barely got through game 4 there, and I ran into him at the rink there today, and he seems to be doing a lot better than I am here. So I blamed it on him.
What a guy. What a guy. But you know what? The best part about that is you have a little bit over a week to recuperate and get ready for the next round. So I guess in that vein, on that vein, what are you guys doing right now to both stay ready to go, but also maybe get a little rest or recuperate at this time of year?
Yeah, we're kind of doing the exact same thing that we did after the Kindersley win. It seemed to work for us, so we're trying to stick with that same pattern. The guys had an optional skate here today. I think there's a few guys, I don't know, about 10 guys that went out there, and then the rest of the guys just kind of relaxed. And then tomorrow we'll have a 3-on-3 tournament. The guys really enjoy that and have some fun with it. And then we're going to do some skill work on Saturday. And I might even drive down the road to Melfort here and check out the game tomorrow night, or Saturday night, sorry.
Well, I pray for you that it doesn't go to as many overtimes as it did when me and Nugsy were there on Tuesday night, because that was a late night for us. But at the same time, it was a ton of fun. So now let's look at your series against the North Stars here that just ended this week, just a couple days ago. Obviously, a rematch of the finals last year. I'm sure that meant a lot to you guys to go the way that it did. But what was the key for you guys in that series to get that 4-game sweep against a very solid North Battleford team?
Yeah, hats off to Battlefords. I mean, they're such a good organization, and we have a lot of respect for them. And that's our sixth meeting with them, and we tied it up 3-3. But they have two championships in our building, so I think they get the nudge there. But yeah, I think that it was a good series. I don't necessarily think that, like, when you take a look at the scores, there was a lot of the games that were tied going into the third period. Our third periods were phenomenal for us. So we did talk about the fact that they swept us in the finals last year, and tried to use it as motivation. And really happy with the way the guys responded. And I think that you're always nervous when you go up against the defending champs. And even when we're up 3-0 in the series, I was still nervous. And you don't want to give them any life. And it's nice that we were able to play them. I think that's a big boost for our confidence, being able to beat the defending champs.
Yeah, for sure. Mike, thanks for joining us, even though you're so ill, too. We really appreciate you battling through. It's the playoffs, though. You got to do what you got to do, right? Yeah, you kind of answered a little bit there, but, obviously you and I spent a lot of time together after Game 4 last year, and like I knew that you have a lot of respect for Braden and for the organization, and you just said it, but I also know it kind of cut you deep to lose, and lose like you did there in the final last year. How much was revenge kind of on your mind the whole series, and psychologically, how valuable was it for you to kind of try to instill that in the players, or did you want them to just focus on this year and this year be its own thing?
I'll be honest with you, zero. No revenge. Like,
Sure.
I think we were disappointed more in ourselves last year, that we thought we had a better team. And there's certain circumstances that led to the sweep. And I don't want to sound like a sore loser or anything like that. I think if we're healthy, we give them a better run. But that was one heck of a team. And hats off to them. I think that they they earned the championship. They were the best team in the league last year. And you got to respect that. And so it wasn't about last year about getting revenge or anything. It's about this year. um, Two separate teams. There's still a lot of guys on both teams that played against each other, and that sort of thing. And obviously, my relationship with Chill over there is a real good one. I had him as an assistant for 6 years, and he did a great job while he was here. So, and he was nothing but supportive in the handshake, just like last year. If we were going to lose a championship, that would be the guy that we'd be rooting for, I guess, to win, and that sort of thing. And so I think there's just a lot of mutual respect there, and that sort of thing. Like I said, we talk about the getting swept last year? Yeah. Does it is it a feather in our cap this year? Sure. But that's not what it's about. It's about winning a championship, and playing our best hockey at the right time. And I know we've talked about it a lot. There was a lot of people that were questioning whether we were as good as our record indicated, and I think that our guys have put that to bed.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's pretty clear. I also got to ask you. I know you were just talking there about taking a trip down to Melfort, maybe going to watch. I know you were watching pretty closely there on Flow Hockey. So, what's your take on the Humboldt Melfort series? Boy, it's been a barn burner.
Yeah, razor thin. I thought that, wow, what a great situation for Melfort getting two of their APs to score big goals for them. I mean, I think every coach would dream of that you insert some young guys and that they're going to have an impact like that. But tell you what, Blevy's got to be pretty happy with what they did last night. And then on the flip side of things, I think that Humboldt had their chances, and I think that it's been a great series, and I'm expecting that Saturday night will be another great game. Not gonna lie, I was hoping for another double or triple overtime last night, and hopefully Saturday night they do go to double or triple overtime. I have no problem getting a hotel room for Saturday night if that's the case.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a feeling that that might be how you felt about it for sure. So, Mike, a couple weeks ago, we spoke to your captain Justin Lees on the other show, SJHL Weekly, just about the roster shakeup that you guys went through, kind of around the trade deadline. And he mentioned how the group has really come together since then, quite well. And so when you were making those moves back in December and January to kind of get your team to where it is today, what did you view as your biggest team needs at the time? And were you at all worried about the chemistry in the room, or were you pretty set that this leadership group would be able to handle all that?
Hey, those are definitely things that you have some long, hard conversations about. We included our leadership group. I leaned on a couple of our guys that have been around for a while, like Jacob Vockler, Cole Tanchuk. Some of those guys, Matt Egan and Ole, that have been through the tough times and through the wars with us. And we just really felt that we needed to add some depth scoring, and we've got 18 of our goals have been scored from other guys besides Justin, Alexi, Andy, and Vockler. So you talk about the trades paying off; they definitely have for us now, and it's a credit to those guys. I know it wasn't easy, and from the outside, it looked like we maybe made a huge mistake and disrupted a good thing. But we were finding that we just weren't getting scoring from our third and fourth lines enough. They were playing well, and we are happy with the level of play. But you got to have some guys chipping in, and last night's a perfect example for Melfort. They get two guys that are affiliated players that score for them, and it makes a big difference in the game. So like we're real happy with the contributions from our depth guys. And when you talk about disrupting a dressing room and stuff like that, for me anyways, character's got to be checked off first and foremost. So we did our homework on each one of these guys, and every guy that we talked to said that they had tremendous character. And we didn't just talk to one guy about each guy. There's three or four different guys that we would check in on, former coaches, guys that have played with them before, and that sort of thing, and making sure that we're doing our homework. And you can't just add players just because they're a good hockey player. You got to add guys that are going to fit into your culture and your room, and want to be there for the right reasons. Like I take a look at a guy like Gruner, and his biggest thing is he wanted to go somewhere where he had a chance to win, and he didn't care where he was in the lineup, and felt Flin Flon was a good choice.
Yeah, for sure. And
Sorry.
clearly he's sorry. You have more to say, or you're good?
No, I was coughing.
Uh,
Sorry, Nuge.
oh, it's okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, his face-off numbers have been terrific. Obviously, doing little things really well. So there you go. And one guy, I want to also highlight, and I love my Ontario boys. And a guy that you added. I know you were, or I thought that you might be looking to add another sort of real impact D man, and a veteran guy in Anthony Bax, good Ontario boy. So I got to throw him out there. Has he kind of been what you hoped in terms of sort of like a top pairing, top four impact D man? I know he's blocked a lot of shots for you. He's leading your, I think he's got 3 goals in the playoffs already as well, putting up some points alongside Noah Houle. Just has he kind of been that little space that you were hoping to fill in?
Well, I think in regards to Baxi, when he came in, it was like he was shot out of a cannon. I think he put up 9 points in like his first 7 games or something like that, and then he had a little bit of a tough time adjusting to maybe the structure that we play with and that sort of thing. And we've had many conversations with him. And you talk about how it takes time for guys to fit in and that sort of thing. But I think that he's been phenomenal in the playoffs for us. And I think the biggest thing with him is he's got a lot of tools that maybe some guys don't have, and we've just had to teach him how to use them better, I think. And it's unfortunate. I wish that I had Baxi for another year because I think there's a lot of work that can be done to his game where there's a high ceiling, and I think that he's made the adjustment, and he's made it at the right time of the year. Getting him to contribute from the blue line is huge.
Yeah, for sure. And again, obviously another guy who can chip in offensively doesn't hurt as well from the back end in this day and age. I kind of joked with you or laughed with you a little bit when you first signed Anthony Piccinino. You got him from the North York Rangers in the OJ where I was, and I said that, if there are no fans in North York, there's all the fans there in Flin Flon. I'm not chirping the North York organization, obviously, but I got to ask you, how you compare the atmosphere in the rink and in the community up in Flin Flon so far in this playoff, maybe compared to last year, to the year before. Is it kind of the same, or it seems like it's been amazing kind of from watching it online?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. One of my good buddies the other night after game two, before I was doing my radio interview with the legend Rob Hart, he was just saying, "Holy smokes, Regs! I don't know if I've heard the building this loud before." And I mean, we've had a lot of great nights in the Whitney over the last couple years and stuff like that. But I think game two was a great crowd, and we had four recruits up here visiting, and it's just awesome to see what their thoughts on the Whitney is and the atmosphere and that sort of thing. And I told them that it's only going to get better from here. You guys haven't seen the best, so we're looking forward to games one and two next Friday, Saturday, and the Whitney's going to be packed. And I mean, you guys all know what it's like in there and that, so we're excited about it. But yeah, whether we have 600 people in there or we have 2,000 people in there, it's a great atmosphere.
So a couple weeks ago, we talked with Melfort Mustangs forward Aiden Hutchinson just before the playoffs format or the bracket was all kind of settled down, and we asked him, "Hey, who might you want to play in the first round of the playoffs?" And he skirted around that by saying, "We just want to play Flin Flon," which I thought was a great answer personally, because he didn't want to say who he wanted to play. He just said, "We want to play Flin Flon," because that would obviously be a finals matchup. So we know all year long that you guys have had a target on your back, given the fact that you're number one team in CJHL for a good chunk of the season. How has that prepared you for these tense playoff battles now, Mike? These battles that you've been facing, you always got teams A efforts, A games. How has that prepared you for this time of year?
Yeah, I think I knew you were going to go there with that as soon as you mentioned the interview that you had with Aiden there. And hey, good on him. I mean, some guys there would be shy to say that, but yeah, I think that having the target on the back all year has been a good thing for our group. Have we handled it perfect all year long? No, I think we handled it pretty good there for about 4 months and that. But I think that when you have to go into each and every game knowing that you're going to get your opponent's best. Really keeps you on your toes. And there were some nights where I wasn't happy with the way we responded. But in saying that, that adversity that we went through there in, I guess, mid-February, I think was a real good thing. And what people don't realize is, I said this to Justin the other day, and the team actually. If we would have won just two more of those games, nobody would even think that we went through a slump. It's amazing what two games can do. And I said to the guys, if we could go back and maybe work a little bit harder in the third period of one or two of those games, do you think we could have won those two games? And they all agreed, and that sort of thing. So it's funny how things go. And I've said this before, that sometimes you learn a lot more by losing than you do winning.
Yeah, absolutely. So I haven't had a chance to speak to you since the year-end awards at the end of the year there, Mike. So again, first of all, congratulations on the Coach of the Year award, Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association Coach of the Year, I should say. But you know,
Appreciate that.
17 odd years now in the SJ, and when I was making up the graphics for your winning graphic, I was blown away that this was your first one. What does this mean to you? I know you've been in the running lots, but there's always you've ran into some other hot coaches at the hot times or whatever it happened to be. Obviously, there's a lot of great coaches in this league. I think you'd be the first one to say that. But what does it mean to you to get your name on one of these things now, 17 years into this?
It's nice, but honestly, I don't know. Like, I mean, there's one trophy that you want to win at the end of the year, and that's all that matters. I'd gladly trade this in um, anytime for an SJHL championship. And there are a lot of great coaches in the league. And to me, this award is about your team, your players, your scouting staff, your assistant coaches. Like Cole and Chris Bordas have done a tremendous job with these guys as well. It's not just my award; it's a team award and that sort of thing. So, I mean, I know I've talked to Doug Johnson in the past. I think he's won like four of them, and he told me that there was years that he won it that he probably didn't do his best job coaching, and years that he didn't win it that he probably deserved to. And I would say the same thing. Was there some years that I think did a real good job with what we had? Yeah, but it it is what it is. I don't think that if any coach is coaching because they want to win a Coaches of the Year award, I think they're doing it for the wrong reason. And it's a nice feather in the cap. It's a beautiful plaque. Thank you very much. And I just kind of want to address one thing. I think that some of our fans were a little bit upset about the maybe the video presentation and didn't get the ha-ha of it. It's it's all in fun, and I think that sometimes you just got to laugh at yourself and that sort of thing. And I think we live in a world that sometimes we take things way too serious. And hey, I'm the first to admit that I've done that too as well. But I thought it was pretty funny how some people reacted to it.
Yeah, no doubt. Obviously, Colin Puller, there, the president of the SCSA. You can go on the SJHL social media and find what Mike is talking about as well, by the way, because I posted it up there. It was a lot of fun, and he's a good sport, and you're a good sport, Mike. So really appreciate your time as always. Last question from me, Mike. Again, really appreciate your time. I know you and I could chat for hours, and we will again. But I want to ask as specifically as you're able to, maybe one or two guys that have been coaching influences on your career, and maybe a few things, very specific things that you have taken from them. One thing that I remember a guy talking about a coaching influence was Andy Murray in Western Michigan and the Kings and whatever. He talked about how he would always make his meetings at like 1:33 or 12:02, just so that the guys would learn about precision and details and being there like at the right time. It's not around 12, it's 12:02 or whatever. So that's one thing I remember. What's something like that you've learned, and who are those guys that influenced you to the Mike Reagan you are today?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I've thought about that a lot. It's kind of been weird because when I took on coaching, I was supposed to be the assistant coach here, and so I had no coaching experience, and I was kind of thrown into the fire. I was doing all the recruiting and everything like that. The coach at the time wasn't sure if he was coming back or not, and decided not to, and they were looking at other candidates, and it got to the point I think midsummer that we didn't have anybody, and I said to them like, why not interview me? And I've recruited all these guys, and maybe the new guy won't like them or whatever, and that sort of thing. So they gave me the reins, and the first call I made was to my college coach Sean Hanna, who's Notre Dame alumni, and I said, Sean, I got the job. Now what do I do? And he said, you got to make a statement, Regs. You got to change the culture there. And the first guy that messes up that maybe isn't doing the things that you want them to do, you gotta move them. And he said it can't be just a fourth or fifth liner. It's got to be an impact guy. And I was like, pretty nervous about that. So I won't get into who the player was, but I honestly didn't know how I was gonna know who or when was the right time to do that, but it just struck like that, and as soon as it happened, I knew that I had to make that move, and it completely changed
Mm.
the culture in Flin Flon. And then the other guy is Gardner McDougall, University of New Brunswick, head coach there, legend. I don't know if there's a guy that's won more championships than him, but fortunately for me, my uncle gave Gardner his first job in Cranberry Portage, and so I've known Gardner for a long time and have just so much respect for him. And when we lost out, I think it was my second year in the league to Humboldt in the semifinals. Um, I called up Gardner and asked him if I could come out there and just kind of be around and learn from him and spend 2 weeks there. And they were hosting the national championship that year, and so I spent 2 weeks out there at Gardner's house, and just I had never had any coaching experience or anybody to look up to or anything like that. So, I thought this is the best way to learn. And man, his work ethic is tremendous, and there's a reason why he's won so many championships. And still to this day, I talk to Gardner quite a bit and get advice from him on what I should do in this situation, and that sort of thing. So Sean Hanna and then Gardner McDougall are two of the coaches that probably have inspired me the most, and two completely different coaches in that. But in saying that, I will say that Larry Wintoniak, some of my other coaches that I had throughout the years, you try to take one or two things from each one of them and apply it to what you do. Like Larry Wintoniak never allowed us chips and pop and chocolate bars on the bus or anything like that. And that's my rule to this day. You can ask Rob Hart about it. So
Interesting.
unless we win, when we win, so when we beat Battleford the other night, we stopped at 7-Eleven, and I allowed the guys to get slushies and Doritos. So that's our thing right now.
I love that. That's the one thing that me and Nugsy, when we go on road trips, I'm gonna have to start implementing on our road trips. Nugsy, hey, no
No.
Doritos, no chips.
What?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm a broadcaster.
We got to
I'm not
take
trying
this
to-
seriously.
I'm not
Nugsy.
trying to play hockey for Mike Reagan. That's fine.
Absolutely.
I mean, I love to be around Mike Reagan, but I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be a hockey
I wouldn't
player,
put you on my
but I
blue
do
line.
love that.
I don't
Nugsy.
think you could handle it, Nugie.
No, I definitely
I don't
couldn't.
think you
Definitely couldn't. And
you couldn't
also,
handle the standards and demands that we make up here in Flin Flon.
no. And
I
also, Larry Wintoniak, you just hang around that guy, and you probably grow some muscles like on your arms just by being around the guy. So.
Now, does Rob Hart apply to that rule? Like, is he allowed anything on the bus, or is he also within that rule set?
You should ask him about that back when Larry took over. I'll let him tell you that story, but I'm not as no. Hardy's allowed that stuff on
Okay.
the bus.
Okay.
I mean, when you got as many games under your belt as he does, he can do whatever he wants. He walks on water.
Absolutely. I was going to say, because that's the Dallas Aikens approach when he went into Edmonton and didn't let the media members have donuts in the press room, and they didn't like that. So I was going to say you might have a mutiny on your hands with Rob Hart if that's the case. But just one fun one really quickly. I see the playoff scruff there, Mike. Of the players on the team, is anybody growing a really impressive playoff beard that we should keep our eyes on out there in Flin Flon?
Well, Anthony Piccinino can grow a beard every day. You should actually. He's an interesting guy. Right now, he's got his beard dyed maroon. But I know Nugie loves Peach, but he does. He was going to shave a bomber burst in his chest hair, apparently. So I don't know if he did that or not, but he was talking about that. So maybe you guys should interview him and see if he's got that bomber burst in his chest hair.
Well, we might have to keep that to the post interview. We can't. I don't know if we can air that on our SJHL media platforms, but it's good to know. We'll keep it in mind for sure. Mike, we'll let you get going, get some rest going into the weekend here, and hopefully you get to enjoy some hockey. But thanks so much for joining us today, and best of luck the rest of the way here.
Yeah, thanks very much, guys. We're looking forward to having you guys up for the league finals here, and come enjoy the wit.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the better places to be. Absolutely. Thank you
No
so
better.
much, Mike, and we'll chat with you again soon. All right. That was, of course, Mike Reagan, the head coach and general manager of the Flin Flon Bombers. As they punched their ticket to the Canterra Seeds Cup Final the other day, and they have a couple of days here to kind of recuperate and get ready for those finals games, whoever their opponent may be. And we will potentially find out this weekend, Nukes. That's what I wanted to get into. But as we end off the show here, Saturday night, Game 5, a potential season-ending game. Melfort has a 3-1 lead with against Humboldt. So let's maybe look at that bracket one more time, Director Jordan, if you don't mind. As you can see, again, Saturday night, 7:30 in Melfort. They have a chance to clinch the series and move on to play Flin Flon in the final. It would be, was it Melfort's first appearance in the final since 2018-19?
Yep.
And of course, as you know, if anybody follows the SJHL, Melfort had such a dominant 2010s. Yep. They were so dominant. I think back to my days working with the Estevan Bruins when they won back-to-back there. Travis Mahan had such an unbelievable run there back in those days, and they've always been kind of that picture of success, but they haven't been to the final since 2018-19, so that would be exciting, obviously, for everybody in Melfort. Nugs, I guess just like, what are your thoughts this upcoming weekend? I mean, there's a lot of big hockey and exciting hockey on the way. Even Mike Reagan might be there this weekend. So if you're looking for a good chat, that would be a guy to maybe stop by and pick his brain. I hate that saying. I don't know why I just said it. I hate the saying "pick your brain." But anyways, exciting weekend coming up, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's so special. Actually, it hadn't happened very much in a long time where Melfort played Humboldt in a playoff series. Not since before Scott Barney was there, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I think it's a situation where if you're in those communities, you think, oh, this kind of thing can happen all the time. Actually, no, it can't. It doesn't. So get out this weekend, Saturday for sure, maybe Sunday, and go watch that series, because you were there. We've watched it. I watched it closely online when I wasn't there, and it has been absolutely electric, absolutely intense, just clobbering each other, physical, intense hockey. So it's been wonderful, great goaltending. So get your ticket, get out and watch.
Well, and you think too, you look at geographical rivals like those two teams, like Estevan, Weyburn. Oh, they must play each other in playoffs all the time. I don't, in my brain, top of my head, can't think of a time in the last while that those two teams have met in the playoffs. Yorkton, Melville, they must play each other all the time. Yep. Nope, it hasn't been. It's been since like 2012, 2013 when those two teams met in the finals. By the way, I can't imagine the atmosphere in those games. Those would have been fantastic in the finals. That rivalry. Oh man, but no, it's been a long time. So these things don't come around very often, is what Jamie's trying to say. So make sure you get out there. Jamie, really quick before we end the show here, playoff MVP is coming up. I mean, that's going to be a conversation that we're going to be having. Obviously, we don't know who's going to be in the final yet, but as of today, as you look at some names, who stands out for you as like an early MVP candidate in the playoffs so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think the easy one is probably Justin Lees. I know, so just preface there quickly, Aiden Hutchinson, I did have a ridiculous first round against Estevan, and any one of those three, Melfort, big three boys could certainly do it. But you talk about a guy, I asked Justin Lees when he was on our show about, he had a really good year with the Saskatoon Blades last year, a pretty good year, kind of half point per game guy, had some power play time in a secondary unit in Saskatoon where their thing wasn't necessarily filling the net. They were a good team, but they weren't a dominant offensive team, and he had a long Western Hockey League career, and I wondered, what would be the motivation like? Would he be in here this year to just lollygag it and play his final year at home and just, go on to U Sports or whatever, and that would be it. But no, he's been a man on a mission. Yeah. Like all year, he's been a beast in the playoffs. He's got points in every single game, 14 points in 8 games, 9 of them goals. And then as the playoff gets tougher, he gets better. He's been getting better. Usually you get tighter, it's harder to generate. But at Battleford's there, he had 2 multi-goal games. He had 1 million points against Battleford's.
1 million, wow. Well. That must have been a record.
Yeah, a record. He hit a lot. In that whole series, 3, 5, 7 points in the series there against Battleford's in 4 games. So again, he's a man on a mission. I think right now it's Justin Lees is the clear leader. What do you think?
Well, you know what? This to me could be a year where we see a goalie win the playoff MVP, and I think of how good Harmon Laser-Hume's numbers have been so far. And, obviously every time we mention his name, we joke about the whole underrated thing. But you know what? In fairness, that conversation's probably going to come up again. Obviously his numbers are fantastic, but the team in front of him is playing so well. So, I still think he's going to be right in that conversation. And you look at whoever gets out of the Humboldt Melfort series, those guys, Benjamin Moti for Humboldt, obviously James Venn for Melfort, they've been so good. And those guys, depending on how the finals go, could obviously be, I would say, right up there as well in the conversation. So this could be the year of the goalie, and it has been the year of the goalie. They've been unbelievable in the playoffs, but keep an eye out for those guys, I would say, for the playoff MVP chat as we get there. But obviously we're not quite there yet, because this weekend is Game 5 and Game 6. Game 5 for sure, Game 6 if necessary, Saturday and Sunday. Melfort on Saturday, Humboldt on Sunday, and then potentially Game 7 on Tuesday, depending on if it's necessary or not. So make sure that you have your Flow Hockey subscription if you're not in the area, and you tune into those games, because those games have been electric so far. The fifth one is at this point, almost guaranteed to be electric as well. And as Mike Reagan said himself, he hopes it goes to double overtime or triple overtime.
Well, we've had 2 overtimes in a row.
Yeah, so you might get your money's worth as well if you're tuning into these games. But if you're anywhere near Melfort this Saturday, or anywhere near Humboldt if it goes there on Sunday, make sure you get out to the rink. Support those teams. Junior hockey is so community-based, especially in Saskatchewan. All of our teams are community-based teams. Get out, support those teams. Get out, support those games. It should be a fun time. And you never know. We met some great people on Tuesday. We had some really great conversations. I got to meet a couple parents while we were there. I got to meet the Van Blericoms. We talked a little bit before the game. So really cool. You never know who you're going to see at a hockey rink when you go out for a playoff game, and it's packed, and it's fun, and it's exciting, and it's loud. So get out there and enjoy it. But again, follow us on social media as well. We'll have you covered if you can't make it. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Get on Facebook. Get on our Twitter account, X account, Instagram, TikTok. We got recaps. We got previews. We got all sorts of stuff. So make sure you follow us everywhere. And one more thank you to our sponsors. Now, my sponsor sheet just went flying earlier in the show. So I'm going to see if I can do this. It won't be the same order.
I believe in you.
UPL Canada, huge thank you to you guys. UPL Open Egg, UPL Canada, everybody there. They're sponsoring all of our broadcasts and all of our playoffs. Unbelievable folks. Now I'm going to go off the screen. So if I'm looking over here, that's why. Canterra Seeds, Borgo, Capital Automall, Sask Lotteries, Chevrolet. It's weird saying it out of order. My brain is like, don't say it that way. Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association, Nutrien, Tourism Saskatchewan, Sask Energy, SGU, Great Western, SGI, and RBC. Thank you guys so much. Again, you're supporting all of these players in this league. You're supporting the coverage of this league, and it means a lot to us for you guys to be with us for all of it. So for Jamie Neugebauer, for Director Jordan in the back who crushed it today, thank you, Jordan, so much for everything you do here. And for all of us here at IKS and the SJHL, I'm Clark Munroe, and thank you so much for tuning in. Get out to the rinks, but if you can't, just enjoy the hockey, everyone.